Hello everyone, this is Jalapeno and welcome to the next Eaveecraft Business Let's Play tutorial. You'll notice things have really changed. I have found my new home. This is actually still in the overworld. I ultimately changed my mind about building my base in a Mistcraft world just for a variety of reasons. But where I moved to, there's no one around for miles. I've actually claimed a fair chunk of this land, so I should have no room expanding as necessary. And I'll probably turn around and claim more as I get more claim blocks available. What we're going to be discussing today is actually doing our first sets of automation. We've already done some basic automated stuff, but you'll remember up to this point we've still had a level of manual interaction. For example, when we needed to crush ores or smelt them or turn them into plates, anything like that, we've still had to initiate that component. We're going to start having the machines do all the work. Just to let you know about a few changes I've made. I'm trying to focus more on using MJ energy, and as such, I've actually created a small panel of I can never remember the name of these things. They're like photogenic cells, something along those lines. Photovoltaic cells. There you go. They basically are solar panels that produce MJ. Now they're significantly cheaper than the industrial craft solar panels. Um, Especially for the energy that they produce, but they take up a lot of space, obviously. So my plan isn't to really build a huge solar farm. This is just more to maintain what I have until I can get some of the better MJ generators out there, because if I just use this stinky little thing, it's just going to burn through all my coal and just not produce enough to keep me afloat. So, what I've done is I've connected my capacitor bank, which is basically my main energy storage right now, using energy conduit cables. I'm not sure if I showed you them in the last episode. The crafting recipe is pretty simple. Will require use of the alloy furnace. When I do the mod spotlighted under IO, I'll explain it in more detail. But effectively, I just ran the cable all underneath here and under these two machines, one being an alloy smelter, one being a sag mill, so I can show you how this automation works. I'm going to cover that up since I'm not going to have to build under there anymore. So the first thing we're going to do is the sag mill. The sag mill is basically Ender IO's answer to the macerator. You put ores in here, and it will produce iron powder, two gold powder, whatever. Obviously, you can still get a little bit more if you go through the whole process of industrial craft with the maceration, then the ore washer, then the thermal centrifuge. To me, it's not really that big of an issue. Plus, the sag mill will still generate some of the extra ores we need, like silver. When it's smelting certain things like lead, or crushing certain things like lead, I should say. The alloy smelter, basically you've already seen in operation before, can also double as a furnace. Now, what we're going to do in this case is over here you can actually specify how the alloy smelter works. Typically, all smelting I would never use, simply because it means that, say, if I just start throwing iron up top here and I haven't put things on the side here, it'll just create refined iron, which is absolutely useless in this new game right now. But I always want to make sure it's doing the recipe I want. So for this particular one, we're going to put it on furnace only, so that way it will only smelt recipes out of this box, the top box here, and it will only smelt them as if it was just a standard furnace. So what we are going to do is first we're going to take some ME cable, and we're going to attach these machines from our assembler, since any machine in our AE network will work. And now I'm going to introduce you to two new items, the interface. These things, we've had to craft them to make our import and export buses, but they can operate on their own. Basically, what they will allow us to do is tell the system to basically dump items into this machine depending on what's required at any given point in time. It operates differently than, say, an export bus, because an export bus um, will continuously try to put whatever items you've configured into it into whatever container it's attached to, whereas the interface will only do it when necessary. This helps a lot with streamlining stuff, so then that way, at least for if I'm just doing ore crushing, not a big deal, but when I'm smelting, I only want it to smelt using resources for materials that I need. I don't want it, creating 100 energetic irons or something like that and waste all my redstone when I just don't need that many. So how we configure the interfaces is, I'm going to show you here. I'm going to grab some iron ore, and I'm going to go into the pattern encoder here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an iron ore in here. Now, iron ore does not have a recipe of its own, so the system isn't going to pop anything up, but what I'm going to do is manually put 2 pieces of iron powder in here. Now, it has to be iron powder or whatever the end product is of whatever machine you're using. So if I was going to set this up for a macerator, I would want to put 2 crushed iron powder in there, so the system knows specifically that this is a recipe for making iron powder. Now I encode it, and then I'll run over here and pop that in there. And so now, basically what the interface tells it is somehow, it doesn't know how, but somehow if it takes an iron ore and puts it into whatever container system it's attached to, magically 2 iron powder is going to come out of it. Now the interface will not take items out unless you've configured it up here as well. I typically don't bother doing that. It's just a personal preference, because I can actually have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 items I can have configured, but I can only specify to take out 8. So, typically what I will do is I will actually use basic import buses to actually remove the items. So basically now what I can do is, say if I wanted iron powder. Typically this is not something we would actually need to acquire. It's not showing up here. Let me see what I've done wrong. Alright, so it was a simple problem. The network basically just froze up, not a big issue. All I did to fix it was to actually break just one piece, and of course it would fall all the way down there. I've only done it a dozen times today, but this time it's got to fall. So I just basically broke it, put it back, and you see the network reboots. And now if I look up iron powder, I have the ability to craft it. Now this on its own is not really that important, but then what I can do is, in this case we'll say I want to make, we'll say 4 iron powder. So what's going to happen now, the interface is going to drop the iron into here until it has crafted the amount of iron powder that we need. So it should drop a second one in there, and you see it's already processing, and then it'll stop after that. Now that in itself is not all that special, but next what we're going to do is we are going to grab an iron ingot, and we're going to put an iron powder into here, and we're going to say, whatever we're going to do, this iron powder is magically going to become an iron ingot with whatever machine we set it up with. So now we're going to go and put this, in our interface above our smelter that is set to furnace only. So you'll notice there's nothing left in here. Now I'm going to take all the iron powder out to show you how this works. So I have no iron powder, and We'll take all the iron ingots out too. Now I'm going to tell it I want to create, say 5 iron ingots. So it's going to initially try to smelt it with iron powder, but then it realizes, hey, there's no iron powder in our system. So it actually starts converting it. So it's dropping it in there, it'll go into the system, then it takes that iron powder, dumps it into here. Then that burns, and then we get our iron ingot. So now what winds up happening is any time we use a recipe that requires iron ingots, we no longer have to crush ore and we no longer have to smelt it. It will automatically do it on demand as necessary. Now we can repeat this with every single ore type out there and every ingot, which is something I will do as the need for it arises. And then we're also going to expand our machines to actually do a lot more complicated things. Like we'll create an alloy furnace that will handle alloys rather than just the furnace recipes, and then we're also going to expand into adding some carpentry stuff. That's going to be in the next episode. I just wanted to show you guys how to do basic automation. This is where AE strength really comes from. Because now once you start setting this all up, then every recipe becomes really freaking easy, even if you've never crafted it before. So because you won't have to manage the resources or the creation of the ingots. So that's it for now. In the next episode, I'm actually going to expand this further, start moving into forestry, and then we're actually going to get started on some bees. Now, and that's going to be really exciting for all of us. Alright, well, thank you very much for this. If you have any comments, feel free to post it in the YouTube channel. In addition, please feel free to subscribe, share it, post on my Twitter, whatever you like, and take it easy.